Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Back again to talk about the Plunderstorm, how to get some of the best builds, how to get the best success with the game, how to get your Renown grinds going, the works. I've gotten to Renown 9 on day 1, and really the more that I was following a couple like straightforward principles when I was playing the game, both in solos and in duos, the more fun I was having, more Renown I was gaining, more successful I was. Keep in mind, you are getting Renown, or a bonus, for playing your first game of every day, and for doing the quests. Some people have been saying that you could like drop, complete your quest, and then just die and then go again if you wanted to. It sounds really not fun. But also, if you instead want to do a couple things to maximize your efforts, you'd probably have a lot more fun while doing so. Big thing with the map of the zone, these are the different marked POIs all over the map that you can actually land at. They usually are going to be swarmed by people as they all rush to be able to kill everything off. But there are a couple areas that I really liked. One of them is this little swirly area that is filled with elementals. There's like 4 elementals at cardinal positions, and then there's another elite in the tower nearby. And then you can then go down into the mines, and there's a couple other elites there. And if nobody has actually looted Argarok, you can kind of go up there. That can be kind of like a loot path for you to go, where the priority is on killing as many elites as you possibly can, because they drop great abilities. They also help you level really quickly. And also, you want to have good mob density where everything is kind of close together all the time. The other area I really like is this, it's not quite like the mines, but it's kind of the mines near Stromgarb Keep, which is off to the side. There's a bunch of elementals and kobolds and everything there. And it's usually not one of the first places that people are actually landing at, because usually they're trying to go into the cities. A lot of people are landing at like Hammerfall and inside Stromgarde, and that's usually just like a shit show of people just mashing whatever ability that they have on hand to try to kill you off, and it can get quite messy. So I really like those locations if you can land in them. Ideally, wherever you land, you want to find the stars on your map, and you want to make sure you're landing on top of an elite, because it'll one-shot it, give you XP, give you an ability to fight with if you really need to fight for your life off the rip, and it helps a crazy amount. There also is a full list on Wowhead, and I'll have the link in the description below, of optimal abilities that people have liked so far. The number one is Fire Whirl. Like, no surprise, this is the absolute best ability in the game right now. It's probably going to get nerfed in a day or two. I wouldn't be surprised. Full control of your character, movement speed increase, does tons of damage, all of it. Helps you really dodge a lot of things. Fantastic. I also agree with them. I really do like Rime Arrow. You'll see in a lot of our clips, it's really good for being able to like poke away at enemies, get a little opener damage, and also not overcommit. I don't like Storm Archon. I actually personally do not like playing with that ability. You can have like 3 back-to-back shots that you're trying to fire. Holy Shield feels pretty good, but again, it's another like skill shot that you have to worry about aiming. And the like success and failure of these usually feels pretty swingy, kind of high. Steel traps, and also, where was the other one? There's another one, which is also a disengage. So the steel traps is a cluster of traps, and then there's like a disengage set of traps that you can also drop, and that one's like pretty decent as well. There's some really good combos though that I want to highlight. One of them is Repel and Fade to Shadow. So Fade to Shadow blinks you forward, stealths you, and if you start casting Repel immediately afterwards, you're still in stealth as you begin the cast. So if you jump on somebody and they don't know that you have Repel, you can Fade to Shadow, repel them, and silence them before they even know it, and then shut down whatever ability they're casting or were about to cast, allowing you to cast something really quick as a follow-up. Windstorm's another projectile stun. It's, you know, another skill shot that you have to deal with, have to play around. So ideally, I would really recommend Fire Whirl, Rime Arrow. I like having something to disengage, but what they actually didn't link here was kind of my favorite. It was the Face Stomp. It was actually the, where is it? They don't even have it here. It's actually a Fey form. And what it does is like a 99% damage reduction, makes you immune to stuns, gives you a movement speed increase. I actually think it's better than Fade to Shadow. I think it's better than Repel in a lot of cases. It pretty much just gives you like a bubble, and you can mount up and you can just kind of run. You'll see it in a bunch of our clips as well. But of course, maximizing your Renown gain is always going to be important, because there's mounts, there's pets, there's toys, there's achievements, there's all kinds of fun stuff you want to get. And like I mentioned, I'm almost at Renown 10. And I gotta tell you, going after just the quests and dying over and over again doesn't sound too terribly attractive. If you're really looking for a quick TLDR on how to be able to play each game, the beginning, you're looking to find a drop spot that's not going to be overwhelmed by other teams dropping. You're going to be looking to kill as many elites as you can and killing as many NPCs as you can to get leveled up as fast as you can. Ideally, getting to like level 4 or level 5 outside of the first drop spot that you go to, and then going to another POI to be able to get further loot, possibly fight some other teams to help get you into mid-game. Mid-game is really about running around the map and picking and choosing when you're actually fighting, keeping in mind that when you see other teams nearby, you might have abilities like the Demon Hunter chains that's available to you to start an engagement and to start a fight, but you don't always have to use those things to force an engage. And a lot of times, if somebody runs at you and uses one or two abilities, the ball might be in more of your court to pick and choose how you respond. Whether you're disengaging because you see other teams, or whether you're going into the fight and you know what kind of abilities that they have on hand. One of the biggest things is that if you know, for example, that your opponent has Flame Whirl, then it's going to matter a lot in terms of when you're going to use your Fey form or whether you're using your Stealth Blink, because you can use those abilities to directly counter the Flame Whirl and make sure that they're not going to be able to land on top of you. You can also use things like Repel, which is going to give you the immunity to crowd control and then silence the enemies as a way to repel them from Flame Whirling you. And so the more that you see the information on what abilities they have when they try to attack you, the easier it is for you to make the decisions on how your abilities are going to be able to counter it as a result. That's why I really like Rhyme Arrow, because if anybody tries to do that to you, well, you can just keep on tapping away at them with the Rhyme Arrow, and so as they wait for you to use other abilities, you haven't shown your hand in terms of what you're going to be doing. When it comes to endgame, it's really about making sure that you are avoiding any fair fight whatsoever. In this game mode, there should really be no such thing as a fair fight. You should always be looking to have some kind of advantage over your opponents before you really engage with them and fully commit to doing that damage. When I was playing endgame in solos, that really meant kiting like crazy around the map and avoiding fully committing, because getting caught in like landslide stuns, getting caught in somebody's flame whirl when I don't have an escape, all of these things are just near death sentences, and when other people do it, you can very clearly see when they're going to be vulnerable and then be able to jump on them and punish it as a result. So the biggest thing is running around and making sure you're not committing to fights, finding ways to pick on or push other people to fight when maybe they don't want to or they don't have their abilities on hand, they don't have their health pot on hand, because keep in mind, any sort of damage ability is going to stop that, is going to interrupt it, and how you can push those people to fight, keep them in combat, keep them from healing, makes all the difference in the world in getting that win. So the big thing when I was playing solos is you don't always have to commit to a lot of fights. And as long as you are building up a kit, a loadout that is going to give you some kind of escape tool, whether it's dropping traps, whether it's the Fey immunity, whether it's going to be the stealth blink, you always have some kind of option. Once you get out of the starting zone and once you get a couple NPCs down, you'll have some kind of options to be able to get away from fights. So when you're playing in solos, first priority is, of course, surviving off the rip, getting a couple of elite kills on hand, making sure you're safe. And then what I really tried to do as best I could was make sure that I was in a position to pick and choose when I wanted to get into fights. And as I'm running around the entire zone, every single little NPC that I can kill, I'm killing for the additional levels, killing for the additional reps. You level 1 to 10 throughout this game mode, and it's really, really noticeable if your macro game, if your overall player level, if your abilities are really lowly leveled, because then you're just going to lose fights just near immediately. People can 100 to 0 you really easily if you're standing in any of their ground effects that they're putting out. And so the more that you are not fully committing to just being right on top of them in melee range, smashing down on them. One of them is like the Fire Hammer, which does like a quick frontal in a cone or in a line in front of you. Those kind of abilities, yeah, they can do some good damage, but they're very easily dodgeable, and they also cause you to fully sort of commit to being in melee range, dealing lots of damage to them, but also taking lots of damage from whatever abilities that they have. It's why I said before, having things like the Rhyme Arrow are really helpful, having things like the Flame Whirl are really helpful, so you can kind of pick and choose when you are entering into a fight, and also help you get out of fights a lot easier. One of the experiences I've had is if you or a teammate's dying, keep in mind that the Storm does not really deal that much damage. Compared to other BR games, the Storm is very, very forgiving. When you go to stand on your ally, that's how you res them, and you can actually sit there and have your Fae form and actually immune the damage of the Storm to res your ally and then not take any damage yourself, and then you can immediately sort of like drink and use your health pot and all that fun stuff. So keep in mind, there's a lot of really easy ways to be able to keep your allies, or get your allies res, get them back to life, get them in a good position, and then also still go into the end game, really, without any sort of hassle. So the big tip I would say when you're playing solos is looking at how you pick your fights, and also looking to kite anybody who's chasing you into somebody else. So if you have Fae form, or you have traps, or you have some kind of disengage mechanic available to you, keep in mind if someone's chasing you, yeah, you can get some space from them, but try to run them into another team or run them into somebody else, because they'll almost certainly stop and start fighting them instead of chasing you or instead of disengaging entirely. It makes it so much easier for you to pick and choose your battles, third party other people, or generally just play to the end game when you're able to choose these fights on your own terms. When you're playing in duos, you not only have to keep in mind what abilities that your opponent is going to have, but also what your teammate is going to have as well that can help you. Whether you have really aggressive talents on hand, you might have like the chains, but you might also have a Fae form, so you can dive in on an opponent, or you can pull out an opponent, but then you can also find a way to escape, but maybe your teammate doesn't have those sort of escapes on hand, and so you want to make sure you stay closer to them and take advantage of whatever other utility resources they might have. Those things are always really important to be able to communicate with them, so you kind of know where they stand. If you have steel traps, for example, you can start using those to start shielding your ally to give them time to heal, and to make sure that they have time to be able to make space. I really think the principle of like avoiding fair fights at all costs is incredibly, incredibly important, because it's extremely noticeable when opponents are going to be fighting with just a little bit less health than you, or going to be fighting when they don't actually have like their flame whirl or their extra ability on hand to take advantage of. And so making sure, most of the time I was fighting on edge of zone and fighting on the edge of the storm, and kind of forcing my opponents to be able to engage with me with the storm at my back. So that way, nobody's going to be able to third party us, and nobody's going to be able to roll up on us without us seeing. And it also allows me to take advantage of some of the movement speed abilities I have at my disposal, so that I can then force those guys to have to play in further to the zone, while I can kind of pick away at them from a distance, and then pick and choose when I'm going to make my rotate, when I'm going to go into zone, and actually, get ready for like the next ring. Zone doesn't hurt that badly. There's certainly a lot of times where people are going to see it, going to see that they're taking a tick of damage from it or something, and then immediately sort of like run away. So keep in mind, more that you have control over when you are starting the engagements makes a world of difference in your placement. And finally, if you're playing duos, the last tip I have is split looting. Split looting refers to when you are dropping and you're just kind of spreading out immediately to start killing off other NPCs. It's really tempting, especially early on when you're fighting elites, to just take them on together and just follow each other forever. And this works pretty well early on. Once you get to like level 3 to 5 or so, you want to make sure, as long as it's safe, that you're splitting up and killing as many NPCs together as you can, because the XP that you are producing is shared between you and your teammate. And so when you hit level 3, they hit level 3. When you hit 5, they hit 5, etc. And so the more that you're able to spread out and get as many of those elites killed as fast as you possibly can, it actually makes it a lot safer, because then you don't actually have to worry about some other team taking it, being a higher level than you, and any other problems that you might have. Most of the games that I won, I was either equal level or higher level than the other people in the group around me. And so as a result, I didn't actually have to worry as much about taking extra damage, or if I slipped and fell into somebody's void zone, then that was it for me, or any of those things. I just was able to always look for the unfair advantage to be able to get the best chance of possibly winning. Because, yeah, in this game mode, you might find some people that are very casual, but you might find some very hardcore raiders who are a little bored of WoW right now, or some hardcore PvPers who are bored of WoW right now, and they're really, really good at this game. But having a little bit of a level disadvantage and working it into your favor makes all the difference in the world. So try to split loot whenever you can. And also, if Blizzard's watching this is a pretty fun game mode. I enjoy it. I kind of wish that leveling was not as big of a deal, or that leveling was a little bit faster and kind of capped out faster. I think that'd be fine. I like how the abilities upgrade, because it also makes it worthwhile to kill the random tarantula that's hidden around the zone. I'd definitely love it if there were a couple more maps to this, but I think in lieu of that, I'd really like it if they vaulted certain abilities. So yeah, we know Flame Whirl's probably going to get nerfed, for example, but if they instead made it so that Flame Whirl is available one game and not available the next, or, you know, once they actually properly balance it, there's always going to be a best ability. And so making it so that players are not dependent on, like, let me find my Flame Whirl, let me find this other ability I really super love, I think would be a really good way of making sure people don't get dependent on one ability or another, because some of these are just really fun, even if they're not the most competitive. So I think that'd be important to keep in mind for them. So that way there's some diversity with builds and how you're fighting opponents. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. Check out our Patreon if you're interested in supporting us further. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you all found it useful. If you have any other questions about the Plunderstorm, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, guys.